Hey, what's up, Mountaineers? It's Brian, aka Rev. Today we have an outstanding video for you. I had a conversation with Jacob of Beach and Tactical and Exodus Knife and Tool, and I think you're really going to dig it. If you listen well, you'll learn some things. You'll also be on the inside track of some things that are coming up that you'll want to be watching for. And you'll probably learn some things that will pique your interest, like me. My takeaway from this is there are several points in our conversation that are piquing my interest, that are going to cause me to dive a little deeper into a few subjects that I have not done very much research in. So I think that you'll probably share different points of interest, but that same unique perspective that Jacob's bringing might pique your interest in some needed area that will cause you to dive a little bit deeper and ask some needed questions to help you be and you and your family be more prepared. If you don't already follow or subscribe to Jacob's page, go and follow, go and subscribe right now. Go and take a minute, pause right now, and go and subscribe. He's got a great YouTube channel, Prepper Outdoor. I'll put it right here. Or if you don't already follow Exodus Knife and Tool, if you don't already follow Beach and Tactical, go do those things right here, right now. They're worth your time and interest. But more than anything, this is a rock solid dude from all early indicators, rock solid dude, core of what it needs to happen within our culture, and is continuing to happen. So go and show some love, show some support, and I know that you won't be sorry. You'll get more out of the equation than you put into the equation. I feel certain of that. You guys listen in and let me know in the comments below what you think of today's conversation. Be well.
All right, let's see here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for taking time to hang out.
Yeah, my pleasure, man.
You have a hockey jersey on?
It's actually a dirt bike.
Dirt bike, even better. Yeah, right on. So you're into the motocross scene?
I wouldn't say that. I would say I'm a dirt bike enthusiast.
Okay.
We have an MX track local that I haven't been to. I kind of prefer enduro, hair scrambles and stuff like that. But no, I had to kind of bushwhack or weed eat through the jungle of my property for about 8 hours. And I'm just totally physically annihilated and actually kind of cold. And
Really?
I'm looking for something long sleeve and comfortable to put on. And everything else is packed away for the winter except for my dirt bike gear. So that's what it ended up being.
Right on. Cool deal. Yeah, I just came in from mowing. It's not the same. I'm not physically annihilated, but I'm pretty tired. So anyway, thanks for taking time even after a long day, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. There's if it hasn't been a long day, then you probably didn't do enough, right? So
that's right. One of the guys that I work with a lot says, because I'm always thinking about when I'm thinking about asking somebody to do something, I'm always like, man, I hate to ask them. They're so busy, And he always reminds me, he's like, man, if you ask somebody that's got an empty schedule, there's a reason for that. Like, ask a busy person if you want to get something done. And it's hard though, because especially I don't know if you know, but I work with I work in church. I'm a pastor, but I also work with a lot of nonprofits. And so if you're not careful, especially when you're talking about volunteers and even paid positions, you can get people overloaded just because they're the ones that do stuff, so you got to be careful to not abuse people in that process or be abused in that process. So anyway, not the point. So I don't know you really, but I've known of you, mutual friends and all that. So I thought we might take a second if it's okay to just 5 minutes to get to know each other, and then we'll jump right in. I've already hit record. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. I got time
Yeah,
for whatever.
yeah, man. So, um, what, like, not interview, but just meeting somebody? What are you like? Hey, man, I like know this, and you kind of know me.
Yeah,
Anything?
that's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Um, well, I guess most people know me through my YouTube channel, which is the Preppers Bunker Outdoors, and through that, I kind of, I guess, have a reputation for an anti-government Christian position on
Okay.
topic.
Okay.
And so I do a lot of different stuff, but I guess if I was going to summarize it really quick on who I am, I guess that would be where I'm at.
Okay. No, that's great. That's actually a good answer for the interview, not just a guy getting to know a guy. That's cool. So how long ago did you start that channel?
A long time.
Yeah.
I don't know, no, maybe 7 years ago.
Okay. I'm interested, if it's okay. You said you do a lot of things. Some of those things are businesses, right? Like in the outdoor space, right? I'm interested in chicken or egg. Where did you have interest and start a channel thinking about those businesses, or did those businesses come out of, like, the reverse? Did they come out of hey, I'm in this space and I'm seeing holes, and let me fill those holes, or a little of both?
So the businesses definitely came from filling holes.
Okay.
Absolutely. The YouTube kind of did too. And it all kind of hit at the same time because I'd gotten out of the military and gotten married. And it
Yeah.
was all kind of wrapped up in one. But nobody, none of my YouTube subscribers knew that I had a business for like a year or two. I just put at the roll credits at the end, I just put my business logo with some background music, and then that was it. I never said anything about it. And I thought that was the right way to do it, you
Yeah.
know.
I'm
And
marketing. I'm letting them know. Yeah.
right, right. And I don't I like to I wish that I could be subtle with my brands and that people would pick up on things, but they don't.
They're slow on the uptake, bro.
Yeah. So if I
It feels, I don't know about you, but it feels like not authentic to who maybe you are in your personality. If I'm hearing you right, to be like,
yeah.
hey, check out my stuff, that, like that's not exactly how you want to play it, but it is necessary to get people to, because then you're just going to get a bunch of individual messages asking you to spell out, how do I find this thing you were talking about?
It's crazy, man. And well, so, and as an example, there's this knife brand, Half Breed Blades. They released a new product release showing some digital images of some new knives. And it said I think the CCK01, the CCK02, the CCK04. So the type of person that I am, I send them a message like, "Hey guys, what's the Easter
three?
egg here? What's the
What's the
CCK?"
three?
I
Yeah,
don't.
right.
So they just released it. It's months later. I don't think anybody else even asked.
It would drive me nuts to
So
not know.
they've got
Yeah.
tens of thousands of followers, tons of engagement. And I guess it's because I was the kid that grew up reading magazines front to back to include ads, like reading shampoo bottles, freaking
Yeah, the back of cereal boxes. Yeah. Yeah.
reading everything, and remembering when magazines were mostly articles.
Yeah.
Remembering when advertisements would be like at least half text.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way things are anymore. If it's not blatant and in your face, people miss it. And
Yeah.
so it's been kind of hard to not market myself to myself. You would get it.
Flesh it out.
Yeah.
To yourself. What do you mean?
Oh, well, what I mean is, like, I wanted to be subtle with my advertisement, thinking people would pick up on it, but they won't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I thought if I could just leave a little hint, or like in the description box, my business is, and at the roll credits at the end, please support in my business, I thought that that would be enough for a long time. And when I finally started talking about my own products, people are like, what? You have a business? And I was, yeah, man, I've got like 60 videos with my,
Right.
but
So,
if I,
so what was your first business? What was the one that started it there that you were like, okay, I have this before people on YouTube knew that I had a business? What was the first product or the first business?
that was Beach and Tactical. So I wanted a rifle sling with a center adjust point. Um, and I had wanted one since Afghanistan, and I wanted it to be quick release also. And I just got so irritated with the slings that I had on deployment. So it was one of those fill a niche things. I went onto Etsy and everywhere else I could find looking for a sling with a center adjustment point that was quick disconnect. And I couldn't find any.
Let's not assume too much. And maybe I'm a nerd here, but why did you want a center attachment point? Why was that what you were looking for?
Well, two things. For one, I wanted to be able to wear the rifle on my back and quickly transition to the front.
Okay.
The other thing is, if I was to get tangled up and pissed off, I could just quickly snap it off. And so, in the Army, all of my excess had to be S-rolled and taped. There was no quick disconnect, and QD quick disconnect, push button quick disconnect sling swivels weren't really a thing back then, I don't think. So if you got all wrapped up or caught in your gear with your sling, man, that just, it would make me so mad. Kind of like when technology doesn't work like a computer or a phone.
Yeah. Speaking of which, the camera that normally works is not working right now. So I'm doing this on an iPad. So here we go. Yeah.
So it's just that gets me hot, like faster than anything. It's one of those experiences. And I was like, if I could just have something right here to just snap, boom, it's off, put it back together, fix my stuff, that'd be a lot better.
Yeah.
So, so that's kind of what got me started. I made one for myself. I shared some pictures on a forum because that used to be a thing, 308ar.com forum, and everybody wanted one. So I started selling them, and one thing just led to another, and it wasn't about a year later, I started going to Tactical Response, and James singled me out and liked what I did a video with me, and I've been kind of rocking and rolling ever since.
Did you get a lot of business from that video?
Oh yeah.
So maybe we skipped some things because you said you had just come back from service in the Army and got married. That's a mouthful right there, and I just skipped right past it. So did you come right out of high school and go into the Army, or did you do something in between? Good. So where we had left off was you mentioned, and I didn't pick up on it, and I should have asked. You mentioned starting these things, starting your YouTube channel and your business right after coming off of your time in the Army and getting married, which are two huge things. And I asked, did you go right into the Army after high school?
Yeah. So got out of high school a little bit early, went to basic training. Long story short, I got my choice of duty station and with an airborne contract. So I heard that the 173rd was deploying immediately. So I joined the 173rd. I was supposed to go to Italy, but they shipped me up to Germany. It was a weird little thing. But so it was like 5 months after high school, I was in Afghanistan. It was like basic training, airborne school, Afghanistan, pretty much. So, so that was interesting. I had a lot of probably unique experiences there. And I only ended up doing 4.5 years. I hurt my back, tried to change to a different job, and I couldn't. So I got out.
You couldn't? They just didn't let you, or?
So I tried reclassing, and long story short, uh, things didn't work out the first time. I was going to try and be a UAV operator, reclassing from an infantryman.
Yeah.
It didn't work out the first time, so I tried doing it again, and infantry became under strength, which meant that they weren't going to let anybody leave the infantry at that exact moment. And I was right at my window where it was going to be too late. So, my current wife, girlfriend at the time, I thought that I didn't really want to raise a family while in the military, anyways, and I just said,
Yeah.
heck it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, looking back on it, I imagine now that you have your family, it seems like good timing, but at the time, it probably didn't feel like your plan. Is that am I guessing too much, or were you happy to get out when you got out?
It's kind of weird because once I hurt my back, it was really hard for me because I constantly felt like I couldn't be the soldier that I needed to be or wanted to be.
Right.
And so I did make up my mind to get out early, and I could have gotten promoted to my E5 in my first 2 years if I would have uh, re-upped, and I didn't. So I kind of always had this chip on my shoulder about being a corporal, being a team leader, but not
Yeah.
getting my stripes, not getting my E5, my sergeant, and then getting out and feeling like I didn't accomplish as much as I wanted to accomplish. And I still sometimes feel that way, but then looking back, I got out the perfect time. I wouldn't have been a good soldier for all this COVID crap and crash. So, um, the Lord had a plan. It certainly was for the best, and I don't regret it at all. I can't help sometimes think that maybe it would have been cool to have stayed in and done something else, but I
Yeah.
know I have faith that it wouldn't have been cool. So,
Yeah. That's a good way to frame it. Um, is it okay to ask how you hurt your back?
yeah, yeah, I just was up on an OP and on an observation post in one rainy night and fell off.
Hmm.
Um,
This wasn't the one that you posted about I remember you telling a story at some point of going up like uh, up a pretty significant. I mean, hill would be an understatement. Mountain might be an overstatement. I don't know. I wasn't there, but like there, like a regular ruck that was pretty long. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Of course, you
yeah, yeah,
know, but
yeah. That was OP Dabari, and it wasn't that one. So while I was in, these two sailors, they were probably like some Navy SEALs guys, but we were just told they were sailors. Decided to leave their convoy and drive off on their own through Afghanistan in an SUV, an up armored SUV. Probably for good reasons, but we were kind of led to believe that they were morons.
hmm,
They got captured, and so we were out for a month looking for these guys. We would get airlifted to different spots, different mountaintops throughout Shark and throughout the whole area, looking for these guys if they were alive. And um, and the weather was nasty, so they ended up being dead. Their bodies washed up in a wadi, but yeah, it is what it is.
so when you hurt yourself, what was the recovery time till you because to you being able to be mobile and as active as you are now? Like how long did it take for you to be able to be back to the condition that you're in right now? Because I mean, you just shared with me when we were getting started how much work you were doing today, and like I mean, you're a super active guy. I see Instagram posts of lifting weights and doing all this. How long did it take for you to be able to get back to this place?
More or less the deployment.
Okay.
I didn't really get any time off. I had a really, really hard time on the deployment because of it. I had some toxic leadership, some problems with uh, the um, the medical guys because my medic was a turd. So
So are they downplaying the significance of your injury, or what? Like what was
yeah,
happening?
entirely, and
Okay.
not recording it at all.
Oh
Um,
man.
my medic wanted me to fail, and my chain of command kind of did too. Part of them, they were kind of turds, kind of a toxic good old boy community there. And there were some upsides to it for sure, and we did some cool stuff for sure, but I was definitely lumped in with some turds. I think for about 6 months of my 4.5 years in the military, I had some good leadership at Fort Campbell,
Hmm.
and most of those guys are special forces or changed branches now and jobs completely or got out. But in that 6 months time, I learned more uh, in that 6 months about the Army than I did the whole other 4.5 years. Everybody was motivated, but deployment certainly was not that time. So yeah, uh, I got strong on deployment regardless, even though I kept having reoccurring issues, but I got severely out of shape. So when I had deployed, my slowest 2 mile run time was under 13 minutes, about 12:45. I never ran that fast again.
Wow,
Um,
that's really quick.
my next fastest time after deployment was like a 13:10 or something. But I got bumped way back, and I was in physical therapy, I mean, basically for like the next 3 years. Um, yeah, I don't know. I never felt like I really bumped back, but I've kind of felt like I've been continuously bumping down since then. So I
Hmm.
don't know.
Okay.
Right now, in the last 6 months, I've had like two surgeries, um, and um, I lost, in the last month, I lost 20 pounds,
Hmm.
and so I'm not doing all that hot. I'm trying, but
Yeah. Yeah. Are you in a lot of pain these days?
for a completely unrelated reasons, um, with specific things, yeah, actually. Um,
I just heard surgery recently, and a lot of times there's recovery that comes from that. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. I still have back and neck issues, but they kind of get really bad and then get better, and then I'm good for a while, and they'll affect me on certain things. But then 3 years ago, I broke my leg, and so I just had the hardware from that removed. And then right before that, I had a surgery on my elbow because I had a bone spur where my tricep tendon attaches, and I broke it. So I had that removed. And yeah, it's just been a little bit hard. But I'm constantly lifting, and I want to get competitive again.
hmm.
I'm certainly not. I wouldn't say I'm in any kind of shape at all, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Competitive. Okay. And so you mentioned leadership, which is a huge topic, and having some turds as leaders. What did you learn about good leadership and the way that you want to lead your company and your family and the people that the way that the leaders you want to follow, the leader that you want to be? What did you learn about leadership from those situations? We learned from positives and negatives.
Absolutely, everything's a learning experience. So the biggest thing in Afghanistan that I learned from bad leadership is they wanted to do as little as possible, and they wanted to always make sure that they could be blamed for as little as possible. And even in punishing, they wanted to do as little as possible. And in stark contrast to that, when I had good leadership, I was so impressed uh, because our platoon sergeant, this one kid who was always a problem, showed up in the wrong uniform and late, and he didn't say anything. And we did our ruck march. We rucked 10 miles or whatever that day. And when we got done, he asked me to drive his truck back to the company. And he told the guy, we were in the back 40. He told the guy, all right, well, everybody else, you go and have chow and whatever, and I'll see you after lunch. And he made that guy ruck back to the company with him, probably another 12, 15 miles, and was rushing until after lunch. Skipped breakfast and everything. Nobody else got punished. And he did it with him, with the full ruck. Dude's
He
a
took the
freaking
weight himself. Yeah, yeah.
dude's a freaking champion of a platoon sergeant. And so he, to do what's right, was willing to do far more work.
Yeah. He was
As
taking
opposed to always looking for ways to do less work, looking for ways to cover his butt, and looking for people to pawn things off on.
personal ownership. Is that a okay way of saying it, that he was willing
Absolutely.
to carry the weight and to be able to get the job done and do the right thing at the right time? And it sounds like a kind of fairness isn't the right word, but kind of a value of distributing the weight within the team in a just way. Like, hey, we're not gonna penalize you for this guy's mistake, because we want to keep your morale up, but I'm willing to teach him the lesson he needs to, so he's not dead weight in the future. Is that a fair way of saying what am I hearing you right, or am I messing it up?
Yeah, and group punishment is easy.
Yeah.
Not giving punishment is easy. We see that in families often.
Neglect.
Just don't even do any punishment, because giving punishment is work. There are a lot of easy ways to punish, but then there's the right way.
Yeah, I would say
even if it was detrimental to him, he was willing to take the right way.
Yeah, and so the right way, and I don't know, maybe you'll hear this differently, but there's kind of a punitive way that's often lesser load on the leader, but then there's a restorative way that's actually teaching along the way and giving somebody a path forward. This guy's getting stronger in the process and learning. Right. Like that. There's a. I think that's awesome. That's a great lesson. So, any other things about leadership you want to comment on, or is that?
Well, I think all of us have experienced people who work hard to become leaders for the joys of leadership, because they want to be in charge. And those are the kind of people you don't need in charge.
That's right. In fact, if you want to be, you're probably the wrong person to be the leader, often. Right.
So I think staying humble and seeing leadership as a job that needs to be done and needs to be done right is the right mindset. I think seeing the ability to exert yourself over others is toxic and should be avoided.
Yeah, that's really good. It's really good. Anyways, so I asked about your first company. What other companies are you now running? What other things, or maybe companies too small, too narrow thing? What other irons do you have in the fire? What's the full scope of what you're running right now?
So besides YouTube, the other biggest thing is Exodus Knife and Tool. I kind of co-owned 2 knife brands in the past. Didn't work out well either time. This time I'm kind of on my own. I'm having my knives manufactured in Michigan by White River Knife and Tool. I think that they're the best. I didn't even think that they would be an option for me, but they were. They're fantastic to work with. And with my YouTube channel, I always thought that I would focus on tactics and recon stuff, because that's what I did, and camping. And it really just became camping and a lot of knives. Can't really help it. And
is that just what people were interested in, or is that what you became interested in? Why did it?
I don't know. It just happened, and it's what's easy for me to do, so it's what I do. And I became what a lot of people consider a knife reviewer until I started doing political videos. But in using I don't know. I'm a particular person. Mm-hmm. And so I find out that I want something and I look for it. And if I don't find it, I find a way to make it happen myself. So even in the military, before I got out, I had designed a knife that I still think is pretty doggone good. But now with Exodus Knife and Tool, I found the style that I've wanted. I found the name. I found the branding. Things came together. The Lord really blessed me in a crazy way with it. And I think Beach and Tactical is a chore, and I don't like a lot about it. I wish I had named it Beach and Tactical.
Why?
Well, my middle name is Beach.
Right.
When I was still in the military, I had a 12-ton hydraulic press, and I was making longboards. And I thought what I was going to do for a living was make longboard skateboards under the brand Beach and Boards. And yeah, and that didn't work out. And I started making rifle slings. It was just like, oh, Beach and Tactical. Well, that's awful. I feel like that's terrible. I feel like Beach and Tactical is a terrible name. I feel like the Preppers Bunker Outdoors is a terrible name, but they're what I picked and what I'm working with. But Exodus Knife and Tool is what is actually what I want, what I feel like is the right move, what I'm passionate about, and it's done better than anything else I've ever done in my life.
It's a good brand. It's a good brand.
Yeah, it works. It's been successful. I get knives and I post them for sale, and they all sell out in 30 to 40 minutes, and I can never seem to have enough made. And it's super, super exciting.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I just had knives go to DLT Trading, which is one of the largest knife retailers online. Yeah. They sold out in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
That was the first time my design had made it to, a dealer or not a dealer.
Distributor. Yeah. Catalog, online catalog. I don't know what I'd call it, but yeah.
A store, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, things are going in the right direction. Now I'm looking at my first combat knife, and I'm gonna have to order 200 of them up front, do a Kickstarter. Super nervous, super excited, and things have just been going amazing. So that's the passion project. That's what I really see myself doing. I don't see myself getting rid of Beach and Tactical, but when I spend 8 or 10 hours a day behind a sewing machine or weaving paracord, it's not what I see myself doing.
Sure. Is that something that you can teach somebody else to do and manage, or is it something that you'd be hesitant to hand off?
Definitely be something that I'd be hesitant to hand out. I think what I'd like to do the most is teach my kids how to do it.
Okay.
They're going to be homeschooled, have them start working and making some revenue for themselves. Maybe one day one of them will pick it up. I don't think it'd be worth selling. It helps me pay the bills right now. It's helped me pay the bills while I get this knife stuff going. It's always been there. It's been reliable. And I get times where I get really motivated for it.
Yeah.
But it's not what I want to spend my time with. What I want to spend my time with is the knives, and it's just the way things work, and it's already feels so much bigger anyways.
So what is the process like? And if I ask a question that you've already answered in an interview, just be like, go watch this. Like, I don't want to waste your time. You're like, and normally I'm pretty good about going and watching everything and that somebody's done, but I want full disclosure. I don't want to front here. I haven't done that with you. I would like to. I fully expected when I reached out to you for you to say, yeah, in a month we can get together, but you were like, yeah, let's do it next week. And I'm like, oh crap, that's awesome. Let's do it. But I haven't done as much homework as I normally would. So let me ask you this way. What does it look like to take a knife design and get it to production? What does that process look like for you?
Well, it's way easier than you might think for where I have ended up, because I have people that are so awesome to work with. Right now, um, it can work a couple of different ways, but the way it's been working is I'll work with a custom maker to get a knife exactly how I want it made, from drawing and specifications to a real product. I get the real product to a good friend of mine who works doing drafting of engines and very complex things for a living, and who will draft for other people for simple things on the side because he enjoys doing that and he can do it quickly. I have him draft me up everything that I need, basically, get it to White River, and talk about how we're going to sell it. And in this, in this case, with my first two knife brands, they wanted to sell them as well. And that really helped me get off the ground, because it was a lot easier to do and I could do lower quantities since they wanted to sell it as well. And it also got my name out there really well. So if they want the design, then it's pretty easy. If they don't necessarily want it under their own brand umbrella, then I find out how many I have to order and how much it's going to cost, and go from there. But there is a lot more to it too. You think, I think at one point, in 45 minutes, I sold $8,000 of knives, or $10,000, or whatever I do. That sounds really great, but over the period of time, it's not efficient yet because I haven't been around long enough. So searching for a certain kind of handle material that I couldn't get, again, because being so particular, I started buying material from Poland to try out and using that. Now I just bought 7 of the toughest steels that you can buy, and I'm having a buddy make the exact same knife out of each of those steels, and I'm going to test each one so that I can really say I did my due diligence and know that I picked what is really right. All the stuff that I do on the side kind of soaks up, with me having just started out 2 years ago, soaks up a lot of what could actually be income. So this is really still a passion project that's, my bills are still paid by Beach and Tactical. But once I have everything sorted, I think, and I have a niche in the market and everything set up, I think Exodus Knife and Tools certainly going to surpass Beach and Tactical in a big way.
Yeah, I can see that.
As long as I have to be able to focus and streamline, because I can't always be spending all kinds of money testing all kinds of new stuff and doing all kinds of special stuff. I'll always do small custom runs or add some custom knives and custom colors for people, because I like doing that kind of thing, and being a small business, I can, and I think I should. But I really need to focus on getting numbers up, I'm going to have a standardized color scheme, and getting the numbers out to people for as affordable as I can and as many numbers as I can.
So when you get to scale, the scale that you said you want to be, you want to stay small run, custom knives, you want to do that. But you're still early in this, and what's that target you want to get out per knife? What size run would be optimal? Like, is there a goal?
So my goal has something to do with demand, of course, as it should.
Sure.
But I'd like to have a few hundred knives on hand at any time.
Okay.
So if you have just discovered my knife brand, you go to my website, you click buy, it's on its way to your house.
Yeah.
I package it up and send it. I don't want to employ anybody unless it's family. But
that's again, you said particular, unique, or whatever earlier. That's a very particular perspective, even in managing your business. To have this hard line. I don't want to have anybody employed that's not a family member. I'm not asking why. I'm just like, just
Yeah.
noticing there are particular things along the way. That's awesome. To know
Well,
what you want is
it's
great.
if I can afford to pay my youngest brother 50 grand a year,
Yeah.
then I want to get him over here and have him do whatever. I need, I advertise my knives by going on adventures, but I
Yeah.
could do so many more adventures, bouncing ideas off someone else who likes having similar adventures and being motivated to do so many more and go so much more further if I could make the money to do so. And, you see a lot of these people online who have made it. Let's just say Grand Thumb, for instance.
Yeah.
He goes out, somebody films him, somebody gets a bunch of pictures, pretty sure someone edits his videos,
Sure.
and it's up. Whereas it's so much harder to get a good quality product up when it's me going out on an adventure by myself,
Of course.
videoing myself, getting pictures of myself. And someone mentioned on Exodus Knife and Tool, a friend of mine, a fellow alumnus, before he knew the knife brand was mine, he's like, yeah, they look really nice, but they don't ever show pictures of them being used. They're just pretty pictures of a knife that supposedly was just used. And I was like, well, yeah, because it's hard to get attractive pictures of using knives by yourself. You can set up a tripod and everything like that, but it's never that good.
Right.
And the pictures have to be good for people to pay attention to them.
Sure.
Got to make money. So it's just hard. So I need a cameraman, helper, motivator, shipper, animal caretaker guy. My brother can make more than 50,000 a year with what he does as a welder. But we both came to that number. If I can get to where I can afford to pay him that, then that's what I want to do. And
yeah,
that's what I'm going to do.
That's awesome.
But other than, I just don't want the more I can keep the government out of my business. That's what I want. And,
okay. And there's also the people you want to spend time with. And that's a lot of time you're going to be spending with them,
Right. And everybody around here, so many of my friends are business owners, hiring and firing people constantly, never having enough people. The only people they get are dirt bags. You can't rely on them. I don't want to deal with all this. I don't want to deal with the government. I don't want to deal with constantly having new people being a part of my business, a part of my life. I have expectations like, bro, if you're going to no call, no show, just don't ever show up again.
Right.
I don't want to be so dependent on work that I'm just forced to allow you to no call, no show 27 times because I'm too afraid to fire you because I can't get anybody else in here.
Right.
And I'm not going to pay you $50,000 a year to do a $10 an hour job or a $7 an hour job. So I'll just do it myself.
Yeah. No, I hear you. No, that's good. So you'd like to have a few hundred knives on hand, so that you could ship when somebody says, I want that. Even if they couldn't get the exact knife that, is coming up next or whatever, they could buy something now, which I think a lot of people would do. If they're like, man, I really love this guy's work, I want to get one. I think they would buy something that's on hand and then look for the thing that's coming. I think that's awesome. Again, we're going to use the word unique or particular, that the kind of knife that you were like, I can't find it. The first one that started, what kind of made you say, I know I can do this. And it's something that I want and other people are going to want. What like convinced you that your vision was a need in the marketplace?
So this might be more than you want to hear. There's a lot to this. So
I'm curious, man. I feel like I'm asking you more than you might want to share. So, I'm
an open book, man. So I was in the boot camp in the final selection for Alone on the History Channel, the survival show.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I
I
know all
love
those
got
guys,
it.
a lot of good guys. But I had been throwing around the idea of this kukri for a long time, and I just didn't see an Americanized kukri that
I'm
did
sorry, I'm
what
not
a
a knife guy. So what's a kukri?
big old
I'll Google it.
boomerang shaped knife
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
from Nepal.
Okay.
And so uh, we started making this knife called the Super Kook, and it got a lot of attention. It got a lot of traction, especially for where I was at the time. And you know, that was a long time ago now, and I don't actually have that model in my lineup because it's so large. It's going to be really expensive to get started. I've got the gunslinger, but what started with Exodus Knife and Tool is um, in the bushcraft community, everybody has all these crazy rules for like what a bushcraft knife is or isn't, and what you can and can't do with them. And I'm like, if you can't do all of these different things with your knife because it could break or something like that, then why are you carrying such a big knife?
Right.
So I had designed previously a set of Pucos, and I had an ultra mini Puco in there. And I was like, if I'm not going to baton wood or do heavy batoning, if I'm not going to do this, that, or the other thing, I could slim this design down, make it a Puco, and do all these things that these guys say they use their knives for with something that's under 3 ounces instead of a full-size belt knife.
You got to be a backpacker?
No, actually.
When I saw your knives, like you're like slimming it down, I'm like, this guy's so weight conscious. He's got to be. He's definitely carried weight. Like so, in my mind, that goes to backpacker. Maybe it's your military service and rucking. I don't know what made you weight conscious.
It's just I'm also pedantic. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So things got to make sense.
Right.
So if I can do everything that you do with your knife with half as much, why wouldn't I?
Right.
Okay. So, and I do backpack. I would say more ruck march. I do go out on my adventures and stuff like that, but I'm not the guy who goes and does the AT.
Right. Sure.
You know what I mean? I don't enjoy backpacking, actually. I actually don't enjoy backpacking, hiking, running. I enjoy some of the lifts that I do in the gym. I enjoy mountain biking, but I was a good swimmer. Do not enjoy just swimming to swim. I don't enjoy, to me, all of those things are something in between A and B.
Well, so backpacking isn't the walk, it's where you're going and what you're seeing and what you're doing. It's the way you get to the places.
Right.
I mean, maybe different people see it differently. For me, I'm getting away from people. I'm getting to this place that I want to be. I definitely enjoy it. I enjoy but it's not the carrying stuff on my back that I like, like.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. And that's the way I really look at it. But like, if I was going to like want to enjoy the trip,
sure,
then I'd be on a dirt bike.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Or four-wheeler or some type of off-road vehicle or doing the Baja. But the reality is I want to go somewhere in the woods, so I throw on a backpack, and also I know that I need to be good at walking with a backpack. That's very important. And it's the most practical, it's the easiest, so it's what I do. But I wouldn't say I enjoy backpacking
and thanks to law and our whole system of national forests and things, lots of places that you want to go, you can't take a four-wheeler or a dirt bike or whatnot. There are a lot of places you can. There are some places you can overland. That's fun too. Take a four-wheel drive vehicle. That's great, fun. But there are a lot of places you can't. So
it's also what's weird is this pride thing. In the bushcraft community, if you make your fire with a lighter, you're not cool.
Man, I want to do it as efficiently, as quickly as possible. I want to know how to do the other stuff in case I don't have these tools. But like, right. I want to have those tools, and I want the fire. Like, I don't want to take 30 minutes to do something that I can do in 30 seconds.
And
If,
30 minutes is it would be quick.
sure.
That's the smart way of thinking about it. But for some people, that's not the way it is. And I don't want to be one of those people. And I'm like, I'll tell those people that's dumb. And yet I kind of am too. So, if I'm like, if someone's always car camping, that's cool. More
Sure.
power to you. But like, if you start bragging about, oh, I was able to do this minimalist, this, that, and the other, I have to be like, hold up.
Yeah.
You're not minimalist if you need to pack all your stuff in a car.
Yeah, that's right.
So it becomes this pride thing of, and I'll pack as little as possible.
Yeah.
It's stupid though. It really is. It's stupid.
But it's super relative though, right? So like, okay, I can fit everything my family needs for a couple weeks in our 4Runner. Okay, I can fit everything our family needs in, a backpack for each individual. Oh, I can fit everything my family needs in a backpack for mom and I. Like there's all different stages of it, and they're all useful. They all have utility to them, but it's, part of that is what is need. And then there's a whole lot of,
Right.
extra luxuries that you add to that certainly help. And if you're really gonna not go for just the adventure sake, but for long-term survival sake, and those extra tools are nice to have if you can use them.
Well, and it also comes to like, do you want your family to enjoy going out with you?
That's it. Yeah.
So I was
How old are your kids?
Almost 4 and almost 2.
Okay. Yeah. It's coming, bro. It's coming right now. Their voice is not, I mean, it matters, but like, I just, at that stage, I was just putting them in the backpack or putting them in the canoe, and we go. And they're pretty happy with everything other than the same crime that would happen if we were at home, Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, so when I was newly married, I got this, for some odd reason in our house, I was like, I bet you I can jump high enough to hit my head on the ceiling. Okay. I don't know why it happened. And my wife said, no, you can't.
Oh, yeah.
I said, I tell you what, I'll try it. And if I do hit my head on the ceiling, we had like 9-foot ceilings. If I do hit my head on the ceiling, you have to come bug out with me immediately. And if I don't, tomorrow I'll take you out to a really fancy dinner.
Okay.
So of course I did.
Mm-hmm.
Took her straight out to my friend's property, coyotes howling. It was already dark out while we were setting up. She had really never slept just in a sleeping bag. She'd never slept without a tent. I got bit, I think, by a brown recluse.
Oh no.
But it was a very emotional thing for her.
Of course.
In the sleeping bag. I'm in a ultra lightweight summer bag, and she's in like 2 winter bags, and she's on a sleeping pad, and she's like twisted up in the bags, and she's freezing cold. Is that going to make her want to go back out?
Yeah, I would say you win the argument and then you take her out to eat, like do the thing that was supposed to be for her anyway, and then be like, I'm just playing. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Maybe a smart thing to do. That's not the thing that I did, but
no. But it sounds good. I mean, did she? I'm sure you grew together through that. Was she hesitant to go out again?
No, not necessarily. And we never did anything that extreme again. We bugged out again, kind of, and we've had a good time and stuff like that.
Cool.
But she's not super outdoorsy. She's not super into it. Around here in Kentucky, the ticks are so bad.
Oh yeah. They're not great in North Carolina either, bro.
Yeah. I usually get 50 or 60 tick bites a year. Uncountable chigger bites and poison ivy and poison oak from just the things that I do every summer. And I'm miserable and I hate it. I'm from Washington State.
Okay.
And I'm from Washington State to Texas shortly, and then to Germany, which I really liked. And Kentucky, this is not the ideal climate for me, but I got to get out anyways.
Yeah.
But
Be careful with those tick bites, man. The Lyme disease is no joke. Like it's no fun.
yeah, and a lot of people around here, especially when I was working at Mammoth, I'm right basically at Mammoth Cave, will get this thing where they can't eat meat anymore for a long time.
Okay.
They like become allergic to meat from a tick bite. I forget what it's called, but I haven't gotten one so far this year. I've got my clothes that are treated with permethrin. I hate DEET,
Hmm.
but I'm just like today, I just bathed in it. You know,
Because of long-term health concerns, or because of smell, or what? Why do you hate DEET?
long-term health concerns. DEET will melt plastic, a lot of different types of plastics. So I like melted a watch. Still wore it for years, but melted all kinds of stuff with DEET. And then for me, if I put on enough DEET that it actually works, when I'm really, really hot and sweating really bad, it'll make my skin burn.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like 110 degrees out. I get really, really hot anyways. And I feel like it just gets into my skin, just burns my skin.
Hmm.
And on top of that, in the summers on these adventures and stuff like that, I'm so hot, my whole body itches anyways. Then I've got the deep burn. Just don't like it. Picardin is a DEET alternative that you can buy from off the same brand or whatever. It's less oily. It doesn't melt plastic. It doesn't leave any residue. I vastly prefer it. It can be a little bit harder to find, and this year I have found it nowhere.
Really? Okay.
Like off-brand, usually off-brand, it'll be green Deep Woods and red Picardin right next to each other. I'm gonna have to go into a bigger town or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look for it next time I'm in the store. I haven't paid attention to it. That's cool. So the next knife that's coming up is the you just mentioned it, the what do you call it?
Well, the next one's gonna be a combat knife, the Legionnaire.
Okay, the combat knife. You hadn't said the name of it yet, but the combat knife. And is it also going to be different than what most people think when they think combat knife?
Really weird again.
Yeah.
So I was watching on Netflix The Siege of Jardensville, I think it is. And I noticed the bad guy who's in the French Foreign Legion training local nationals had what looked like a 1918 Remington bayonet on his hip, but it was really short. I was like, what the heck is that? That's a weird part. I was like, maybe that's a real thing. And I started looking it up. As it turns out, it is a real thing. Until even just after the year 2000, the French Foreign Legion, France after World War I, had purchased American and English bayonets by the trainload and had paid some private to chop them off short, stuck them in a sheath, took the bayonet or ground the bayonet attachment off, took the hardware out of the pommel and used them as their combat knife. And I was like, hold up. What could be one of the most prolifically used combat knives over the past 100 years all over the world, and nobody knows about it? Like how everywhere the Legion has been, how many wars has the French Foreign Legion been in that we probably don't even know about or have never heard about, carrying this combat knife, and there's not much information about. But I bought one of these French Foreign Legion fighting knives, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to modernize the design a little bit and do my own combat knife that is very much based on this blade. Better edge geometry, a little bit better handle geometry, modern materials, but aesthetically and dimensionally, something that throws right back to this blade. And so it's a niche that nobody has touched at all.
What kind of size is it looking like?
About 7-inch blade, shorter blade profile than a K-bar, because these are literally the old World War I bayonets cut down.
Sure.
So they're deep, fuller. It's really a fantastic size knife.
That sounds really cool, actually. Like I'm
really stoked about it.
I'm kind of excited. Like please don't consider it any disrespect that I don't own any of your knives yet. It's not that way. It's just I'm very focused on family budget stuff, you know. So like things are I don't have any real expensive knives, and I understand that in the world that you're playing in, your stuff is not really expensive. In my world, it's expensive, bro. So don't feel any disrespect, you know.
It's it's weird because now I look at my knives and I think about how affordable they are.
Oh yeah, and I know they are. I'm not.
Yeah, but I remember though looking at a Becker BK9, and I think it was $85 around 2013, 2014, thinking, man, that's pretty expensive.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty expensive. And perspective is everything, but this Legionnaire is going to be expensive.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm excited about it. It might be like a desktop photo, you know.
There's a deep fuller in the blade that's expensive. There's a separate guard. There's 2 colors of handle material. It's small, American made. I'm going to undercut anybody else who does it by a considerable amount, anything close to it, because nobody even really does anything close to it, but it's still probably going to be a $500 retail deal. And especially for gun people, that kills them. It's definitely a niche market.
I actually thought you were going to say a higher number than that. So, that's it really is in this world. I have done enough research to see that that's reasonable. I'm just, it's different than, a Spyderco,
And that's the thing, like, I'm a knife reviewer, but I have my own brand, but I tell people all the time, like, buy an Essie.
Yeah. Okay. Right on.
All the time. Yeah. I review other people's knives, custom makers or production. And, my Adventure Craft, and my Jackalope at the price point that they sell at, they are premium production, but they're not really more expensive than an Essie for what I offer. But
that's what do they cost?
So this little tiny Adventure Craft, the base MSRP is $140.
Oh, that's super reasonable. But if you can get them, right?
If you can get them, and that is for the basic model that White River Knives sells with an uncoated blade and with just black micarta scales.
Right.
Well, all of my blades are going to be coated.
Okay.
For going for my next drop out, and they will all have a different color handle material than just the black. So all of my knives above the base model that will be available at retailers and distributors and through White River Knife and Tool in massive numbers, the ones that are available from me in smaller numbers in my colors are going to be about $30 more.
Yeah.
And that's because it costs me more, because
sure it does.
Being so particular, I want to represent my brand and the people who buy from me specifically with some very specific things.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, super reasonable and super cool. Don't hear me pour mouth in, like I'm at all. And I'm not calling them too expensive. I think you're providing incredible value for what you're doing.
But they are too expensive for some people because at the end of the day, my knife's really not going to rust. It's going to hold an edge for a long time. It's very tough for what it is. But you can get an Essie CR 2.5, I think for $80 or $90 and $10.95. It might not be as good at everything or whatever else, and yet it's in my Hall of Fame. Is it going to complete the job? Yes. And can you get a Mora for $8?
Yeah. I've got several of those that are, I mean, they've held up really great over the years. They're yeah.
You can't touch them for value. There's nothing that I could ever do in this whole world that would allow me to touch the value of a Mora. So, my knives are for people who want my knives and I want to get them out for the best price that I can get them out. But like, I don't, when people are like, hey man, I really like your knives, but I'm having an issue being like, well, look, here are these other options, because I was in the same place. Like I said, looking at that Becker, thinking that's really expensive. I want people to get the most bang for their buck. And in some ways, for some people, that's going to be my knives. And for some people, it's not. What I don't want is what I don't want to lead people to is there's so many knives out there that are just a horrific value for the money, just terrible, and
Call names, man. Blow up stuff. Like what's a horrible waste of money? Like what would you say is, man, like this doesn't make sense to me. What's your rant knife? Yeah.
Okay. So
unless I don't want you to lose any friends or hurt any. Don't say anything you're not comfortable with.
No. So there's this one brand that has both phenomenal knives and values and trash, what I think is trash, and it'll piss people off. But Tops knives.
Okay.
Carried a Tops on deployment. Carried two actually, both terrible. So many designs, a lot of which, especially traditional Tops, have terrible handle geometry, terrible edge geometry, just in 1095, and at a powder coat finish, and at a relatively expensive cost. And you can make them work, but like whether or not they work well is dependent on their competitors in the market, right? So right. If I was going to go buy a daily driver car and I was like, hey, for my daily driver, I'm going to go buy a Ford Model T that's been restored for $40,000. Okay. Compared to me walking, that might be a great value. But if you're like, dude, why don't you buy this 2001 Honda Civic for $3,000? Now the value of that Model T is not based on being compared to me walking. It's based on what else is available. Right. So that value can become terrible. So some of those knives, man, they're just not good. Now the problem is some of the Tops knives I like quite a bit, and they're really good. But typically I point people towards SE because I don't think you can buy a bad SE. I don't think that there's an SE that's impractical. And I tell people, if you want a step up in fit and finish in materials, look at White River.
Okay.
And that's kind of usually. And if you want something lower than SE, you can look at K-Bar Becker or go all the way down to Mora.
Yeah, that's cool. No, that sounds like a very balanced perspective. So White River, you like the knives that you haven't designed. You like the stuff that they make that somebody else, like you like the other stuff that they're putting out.
Dude,
they don't make a bad product.
I was having my knives made by Mineral Mountain Hatchet Works. They are fantastic. I love those guys. And I think they make a great product, but they were like, hey, we don't want to make your knife anymore. They're like, it's too small. We like making big knives. It's a pain in the butt for us to grind.
Yeah.
It wants to roll in our hand. We don't want to make it anymore.
Yeah.
So I had just given White River Knives Manufacturer of the Year. The year prior, I'd never talked to them before. And they were one of the companies that I sent messages out. And I didn't even want to, because I was like, there's just no way. There's just no way that they are going to reply to my message or want to have anything to do with me, because I'm not that big. I'm really not. And they were the one company that shot me back the best offer, the best prices, the easiest to work with. They're a fantastic Christian family-owned company, really good guys. I've gotten to know them. They're amazing. It's been a dream come true, man. But I love their knives. I'd used the heck out of them before I reached out to them. And I didn't think that I would ever have a chance to work with them.
And do you know, now that you've been in a relationship with them, what was the thing that made them want to work with you? Do you know? Have they told you? Was it just as simple as we like the design, or we like your history, or do you know what that connection point was?
I don't know, actually. I know one of the guys that designs some of their knives, and he helped me get into contact with them. But I don't know. I don't know if it's just my personality, or, when I pitched it to him, the X in Exodus knife and tool is at an angle because it's supposed to represent the cross being carried.
Okay.
Exodus knife and tool is supposed to be knives for the final Exodus because I am post trib.
He's getting into theology, to eschatology, guys. I mean, don't let me nerd out on this stuff. That's a different conversation for another day. That's
right.
great.
But and they're Christian themselves. It could have just been, what I said they liked. It, I went to them and I think I said, I've sold 300 knives. I sell quickly. I have a good following. Maybe I'd sold more than 300. I don't know. But I don't really think that had anything to do with it, because I think those are very, very, very small knives for them. They manufacture for some other people, and they manufacture for companies that are not just way bigger than me. They're not comparable to me at all.
Sure.
So, I haven't necessarily ever, I guess, asked them, like, what is it that made you guys pick me? Maybe I don't want to try my luck with them.
No, that's okay. No, I thought maybe you had a suspicion, or maybe they had just offered the information. I'm not suggesting you. If you got a good thing, man, don't upset the apple cart. That's not what I'm suggesting. I did but they certainly don't just make knives just so somebody's watching. They certainly don't make knives for just anybody that approaches them, right? Like that they don't have the capacity to just make anybody's order, That's not what's happening.
They are a small family shop.
Sure.
They're not small like what we think of as a small family shop here in Kentucky. They've got a professional manufacturing facility, but it's still a tight-knit little community with a couple employees and a lot of family members.
Yeah.
And so the knife industry itself is fickle. Brands come and go so quickly. Designers come and go so quickly, and everybody wants to be a knife designer. So many of these YouTube channels pop up for 6 months or less. Let's see. Am I?
You're back. You're back. I was picking up my phone to text you. I was like, I'm sure your wife's like, are you ever coming back to, so I don't want to keep you all night. So you said 6 months or less. That's where we ended up. Oh, are you gone? Okay, you're there. 6 months or less.
6 months or less.
That's what you said. So you said some of these YouTubers are only up for 6 months or less.
Yeah, 6 months or less. Well, they're a business, and I think I'm not speaking for them, but they do have to consider the long-term viability of investing in making knives for somebody. I think they probably want to make knives for people who can order 20 or 50,000 units at a time.
Sure.
I really don't know. But, there's a lot, I think Rowan Manufacturing, the people who make for Essie, when I contacted them, I think they said 20,000 units.
Wow.
I contacted a lot of other makers and brands, and they wanted to charge me like 60 or 70% retail price, and pay upfront, which just didn't make sense.
So they weren't even giving you full wholesale, huh?
No. And so, being a startup is hard.
Sure it is.
These smaller knife brands like me pop up and disappear so quickly. And I think a lot of times somebody's sitting on 60 grand that they want to invest, and they're like, I'm going to make the next knife brand.
Oh, wow.
And it
It's,
just
it's,
falls apart.
do you think they have any idea how big the competition set is? I mean, that's like, it's not, I mean, you're going to, like, I'm not saying there's not enough business for everybody, but you're going to war. I mean, it's like, it's like going to become a, I don't know, an independent musician. You know,
Right.
like, and you want to not be on the radio, whatever it is these days, but like you want to become ubiquitous in society, and people have heard your music. Like that's a long shot, you know.
Well, like anything else, it's like you're really good at playing football in high school and you're like, I'm going to go to the NFL.
Right,
That is what I'm hedging my bets on.
right.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to understand as a little guy. So let's say YouTube. There are a lot of YouTube channels out there with over 100,000 subscribers that are just awful.
Yeah.
Low production quality, low content quality, totally clearly sold out to giant manufacturers, and they do fantastic. It's easy to look at that and be like, man, I could do a YouTube channel that's way better than that. I'm going to get 1 million subscribers based on that guy. It's just not how it works. And you look at these knife companies, and some of them you're like, man, they suck. I could do way better. And it just doesn't work that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I think there's a real, and I don't know if it comes from your Christian ethos or not, but there's a real value to your strategy of, I want to have a niche company. Maybe it's a focus on contentment, but like you, I mean, and maybe you've got a big vision that's like, someday I want a 20,000 unit line, you know, that you're making that order from Etsy. I don't know, but there's something great that lets you make great progress where you're at, to say, I'm going to bite off something that's a reach for me, but it's able to be chewed. I haven't bitten off so much that it's going to kill this thing, you know, like it's kind of like starting a fire, right? You don't want to put so much oxygen into it that you killed the flame, you know. And it's really cool to see. I mean, it looks like you're gaining momentum with each project, and I'm sure that there'll be some project where you lose a little ground, but you realize you can't afford to lose very much and keep it going. It's been incredible to, from a distance, watch, I think, really great progress in a really difficult area. I mean, there are a lot of areas you could have chosen, and I'm sure with your unique perspective and your gift set, you could have made a product that would have had less competition. But this was what you were passionate about, and you're like, it's really attractive to me that you're saying, I'm doing this. This is what I like. This is what I feel motivation towards. That's awesome. You know, and it's like, I'm not going to be dissuaded. Like, I really find your story to be a compelling one. Like, and I'm rooting for you. Like, from a distance, I'm sure there's a bunch of guys like me out there, not just because we've trained at the same place, but man, I just like to see somebody with their head screwed on doing what you're doing. Like, it's really cool to watch you, you know? So.
Yeah, man. Well, and I view everything different than normal people. I'm going to the alumni weekend, and I'm going to be teaching bushcraft a little bit in Finecraft.
He's talking about Tactical Response Alumni Weekend.
Yeah. So, and I'm trying to, like, in my mind, bushcraft and fieldcraft is as tactical as understanding your movement techniques under fire. Because how good you are in the fight doesn't matter if you die before you get to the fight. And yet, the bushcraft community and the tactical community are separated by worlds. And I just don't view it that way. And so, I look at things differently, and I can't help it. And
I thought we were going to get all the way through this and not talk about guns at all, so like, we're a little tactical. We haven't even talked about guns, but that's fine.
Yeah. But it's just, I don't know, man. We're all like called to do something, and um, because of my beliefs and my faith, I feel like I have to be out in the woods, and I'm passionate about knives, and so it just carries through everything. Everything works.
You feel like you have to be out in the woods because of your faith?
I feel like I have an obligation to be ungovernable, or to
Ah,
strive to become ungovernable. And I feel
okay.
like to do that, I need to be competent, or more competent, in my movement and primitive skills.
I see. I see. I see what you mean. Um, yeah. Yeah. So how,
You can't
how
you can't drop what you're doing and pick up the cross and follow Christ, um, if it means walking somewhere and you can't freaking walk. I mean, you can say that I'm going to have faith and get up and walk, but are you really? I think that we have an obligation. Uh,
I know what you mean, I think. I
yeah,
mean, I would argue, I mean, I'm not trying to be combative at all, but like there certainly it's a analogy, right? Like so I was working in a small village in Mexico years ago, and I came to a lady, a Christian lady, a long-term Christian lady's uh, home, who her home was. I'm sitting in my utility room right now. That's my kind of my my bench to squat and work out and whatever is over there. My I've got camping stuff on racks here. It's just kind of a man spot. There's an old refrigerator across from me, whatever. At my I'm sitting at my desk. It's a workplace for me. Her whole home was half of this room, and this is not a
right,
big room.
right,
She had no door, just a like a brightly colored blanket hanging in the doorway. Again, just she had like one bookshelf and one twin size bed, and perhaps one of the most joyful people I've ever met. There's no doubt. I mean, her faith was palpable. She was when we came in, she was in a spirit of worship. She was prayerful. She's just an incredible person. Like the kind of person that changes the environment in a tangible way that would like that something's different when you were with
right,
her.
right.
Um, and she couldn't get out of her bed most days, but she's certainly, you know, following Christ as
Yeah,
well as
yeah,
anybody. And I know what you mean, but
yeah. Well, I think you'll be judged based on what you know, right?
sure,
But I would say you'd also be judged based on what you can do and the
sure,
gifts.
your capabilities, absolutely, very good,
So there's a big difference. I've got a buddy who's disabled, and he does a lot of what he can do, but he can't do the things that I can do or you can do. And if I was a world class athlete and I was just squandering it and getting obese because I like sitting around and eating tacos, I don't think that I would be doing my job based on the gifts that I had been given. So there's certainly
sure,
a sliding scale on
yeah,
what you can do, but as long as you're doing what you can do, with faith and working towards it, not making excuses, I think that's what we need to do. And no matter
sure,
where you're at, you can't have two masters.
yeah, for sure.
Your food can be an idol, your air conditioning can be an idol. I really don't want to live without air conditioning. But
Me neither, especially in
anything,
Kentucky, bro.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
anything
for
can be.
sure.
So
Yeah,
as
you take the gifts of God and make them little idols, make them little gods, and you've totally messed up your whole perspective and your whole life. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, but yeah, it's just so as long as you're striving with whatever you've been given, both wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, power, strength, endurance, whatever it is. But try to become ungovernable, because we can't have two masters. And when anything else draws you away from what you need to do for Christ, it's become a master for you.
Yeah, I hear you. I understand your perspective. Thanks for sharing it a little bit more. I don't want to make assumptions, so I'm glad to hear where you're going with that. And I think the idea you're talking about, I mean, I'm probably taking this a little bit out of context, remembering the context, but there's an Old Testament passage that talks specifically about, to whom much is given, much shall be required. And there's that same idea of doing with what you have, doing with that all that you can do, and stewarding it well. Of course, there are New Testament passages that talk specifically about stewarding what God's given you. So I'm tracking with you, and I agree with you. Somehow we got off into the weeds, man. That sounds like a good thing to sit with the families around a fire and like kick back and say, yeah, so how are we following the Lord of the harvest in our season of life, and not being distracted by other masters? Like that sounds like a good conversation that I'd love to kick it with you over. I don't know how interested the YouTube community is going to be in all that, but sometime when you're out sitting on the porch over here, because we got to get you to North Carolina, man, at some point. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be passing through at some point. But yeah, that would be dope, man. I love where you're going with that. So what have we not talked about that you want to talk about before we sign out?
I don't know, man. Today I was working on this fencing for the animals, because in a mid to short term period, I don't think that the world's going to want you owning animals or being self-sufficient.
What kind of animals do you have?
So I got Nigerian dwarf goats, and they're a milk goat.
Nice.
And so we can't all obviously have land and have animals and livestock and stuff like that. But I think it's time to start thinking about, if the government doesn't want you having a vehicle, autonomous control of your own vehicle, and doesn't want you being able to procure anything for yourself, maybe it's time to start thinking about how you could make that happen. Right, going right back to being ungovernable. And the thing is, that people should think about is what's not profitable today might be profitable tomorrow. These goats are not making me money. I sell goats for $600 to $800 each. That blows people's minds, especially people here in Kentucky. But when you feed
blows
them,
people's minds on which side? Like that's
expensive it is.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, people around here.
I mean, it's hard to find a dog that's not like that. That's a specific breed.
Right.
It's not a $1,500 dog these days.
Right.
Like it's great at least,
Well, it's perspective, and Kentucky's very unique when it comes to the economy and what people buy. But everybody's got a cousin that would sell them a goat for $25.
Well, go do it then. Go buy that $25 goat.
Right. But regardless of how much money they make me now, if they make me enough money to continue to get more goats and expand my fencing and continue to do more, and to give them more pasture to where I have to feed them less and less, now if I'm hungry and I've got eggs and milk, then this investment that's not paying off now will certainly pay off, because when you're hungry, what would you pay for a meal?
Yeah, sure.
So, people, our culture, everything, I'm talking about becoming ungovernable. People have a hard time looking forward, following trends. In Afghanistan, I worked a little bit with PSYOPs. I have a bachelor's degree in domestic terrorism. And so I have a little bit different perspective on what's going on. And I just want to tell people, like, don't be thinking about tomorrow. Think about 5 years from now, because you probably need to be thinking about 5 years from now, right now.
Yeah. Yeah. When you when you chose that specific animal, what else did you consider that you just barely chose? Like what were your runners up? What you know what I mean?
Not much, because the Nigerian dwarf goats are so small.
Yeah.
They give a lot of milk for their size. It's the best tasting goat's milk, so it's very much like cow's milk. They sell for the most money. Their children do, because people like to keep them as pets. They're easy to handle. They're easy to fence. Man, I want to become ungovernable, but I'm not going to have high maintenance animals.
Okay.
I'm not going to have, I won't have a pain in the butt dog that I hate every day.
Right.
I know some of the people that just talk about, like, man, I hate my dog. No, not me. Not going to do it. So it need to be low maintenance. It need to be long-term practical. Ideally, if I could make some money off of it short-term, or it could be self-funding. That's what I was looking at. But I want milk and I want eggs. And I think a lot of poor cultures live on milk and eggs because the amount you can do with it, especially if you look at Mongolia and stuff like that. So I'd like to have Mangalitsa pigs. I've looked into a few other things, but for the amount of land that I have, you got to think in the rest of the world, if you have cows, it's a sign of wealth because they're so large. They take so much to process their meat or their milk. They take so much land. So if you don't want everybody seeing that you have cows, what are you going to do? You have to have all this land. How are you going to keep anybody from knowing? I don't think that the government's going to want you to have livestock. I think we're going to start seeing extra taxation on livestock and farms. And I think we're going to see farmlands being bought up by evil corporations and everything else. So if they don't want me having...
We're already seeing a lot more restriction on people that are selling milk to their neighbors. So raw milk or whatever we're seeing a lot of pressure put on people in small communities, So anyway, so that's already happening. And if you don't think it's going to continue, I don't know, you're not, as Proverbs says, foreseeing the evil and hiding yourself,
Bingo. Big time bingo. So, but all the poor people though, what do they have? They have goats and they have chickens.
Yeah.
Good reason for it, man. You get a lot of milk. You've got a small animal. It's easy to handle. You're not waving a flag over your property saying, look at me, I'm wealthy, I'm rich, I have cows. You know what I mean? So it checked a lot of boxes for me, and I enjoy having them. So
yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we were looking at like one mini Jersey for the milk purpose. But I'm tracking with you. I'll look into the goats a little bit more. We're still in a chewing stage with our current. We just moved our family to not a lot of land, just like 2.5 acres. And, we're transitioning. We've been in the city for years. So we just moved outside of the city, and, it's been a process. We had chickens in the city. We've got a lot more chickens outside the city. We've got a garden now and those kind of things, but we're taking steps. But this is a new move for us. So we're kind of taking it in stride and a bite at a time.
Well, so the Nigerian dwarf goats are 40 pounds.
Yeah.
You want to grab one by the horns and pull it somewhere? You grab one by the horns and pull it somewhere. It's not going to kick your wife in the guts and kill her. It's not going to ram you and kill you. It's easy, man. It doesn't take a lot of land, depending on what kind of land you have and how much you're going to feed them and stuff like that. But so it's just about min-maxing, just like business. If you're ultimately poor in a third world country, how are you going to get the most animal for your money and your space? And I think chickens and goats are the way to go. And I think we see that all across the world. So that's part of, why I went this way.
Yeah. Rabbits are a pretty good meat source, but they don't do. Yeah. Anyway, we can talk more about that some other time. So last question. What's it?
Sure.
What it was it take to get you? Do you ever come through our neck of the woods? You ever come through North Carolina? We're not far from Charlotte. You ever come this way? Or you'd have to come on purpose?
It's been a long time.
Okay.
But I find myself just about everywhere.
Are you going to the next? I think I saw you, but I didn't know you yet. I think I saw you at the last Iraq Veteran 8888 shoot. Are you going to this next year's one?
Planning on, yeah.
Yeah. So we're like, what, an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe from that? If it's at the same place. Yeah, maybe a couple hours. I got to go back and look. We did a day trip last time I went. So maybe sometime around there. I mean, certainly connect at that thing. I'll see you in person there. I don't know that I'm going to make it to alumni, but connect there. I'll look for you. And maybe, I don't know, maybe there's something else that we could do together, but I like you, man. I'm cheering for you. And if there's anything I can do for you, just holler. Thank you for taking time to have this conversation.
Absolutely. Real quick, how far are you from Chattanooga?
So Lookout Mountain, Chattanooga. That's, I think, 4 hours. I'd have to look at a map, but I think that's about 4 hours.
There's the Chattahoochee.
Yeah.
Around Chattanooga, and I've always thought about doing a little bushcraft gathering out there, kind of a thing. Maybe we could.
Yeah, that would. I wouldn't be hard to talk me into going there. There's a place that has asked me to speak, and I haven't gone to that to do it before. But and then my best friend from middle school, his dad's job moved him when we were going into high school, and we stayed. He's one of those friends that we stayed in contact with. He lives in Chattanooga, so he's an electrician there, good guy. It wouldn't be hard to talk me into going to Chattanooga at all.
Cool, man. Well, we got to get around a campfire sometime. I appreciate you having me. It's been a blast. Yeah. And, if you ever give me the opportunity to talk your ear off, I will just talk your ear off.
I mean, was I shutting you off, man? I'm like, yeah, no, I'll look forward to it. I would love to, especially you mentioned several things in the Christian space that I would love to talk more about, but know your audience. And I'm not saying that I'm not at all ashamed of the gospel. I'm not at all ashamed of following Jesus. That's not what I'm saying, but I this conversation, that's probably a different video altogether, Well,
that's kind of the thing. We could probably do a full video on any 5 or 10 of the topics that we've talked about.
Sure. This is just to get to know you and scratch the surface and, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for doing that. It's been a lot of fun. I'll link you to or shoot you a message when this goes live. Just to be candid, it'll probably be a couple weeks unless I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but do the reverse. Maybe it'll be up sooner than that. It depends on how the next couple weeks go.
Well, just let me know, man. I really appreciate it.
When you have something that's coming out, please send me a message, or if you don't mind, or tell me, or I'll just follow it on Instagram. But if you have something that you want to get pushed out before, I don't know what you do. If you've got like a press release thing or whatever. I have not been writing as much as I used to write, but if there's something that you're like, man, I'd like to get coverage about this, please shoot me, CC me in your press release.
Absolutely, man. I will do that, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah. God bless you, man.
You too. Still on?